Hi guys. Gosh, I've missed this. Let me share a tip before I start. Some Talk episode 19 is when you are going live on the YouTube Live, you can spend a lot of time creating the event over in one side of the platform, but then it will say schedule an event. And that is where you have to go to re-upload your description, your title, and you go live from there. I wanted to say that actually on the event because other times it has seemed rather obvious to me, and it's just a matter of probably immediacy. And then, I just took a moment today to wonder, why is it that I can't really get over there? But that's kind of the secret sauce, is that you must create it twice. At least that's what I found today. So, hi, this is Beauty Bubble for Some Talk episode 19. What you see on my screen today is leading up into the holidays of 2015, and we are going to be working on 3 cakes. You may have seen over at my Twitter and G+ that we posted the homemade applesauce with the molasses caramel glaze. Today is this is a Mrs. Grace's cake. We were able to find this fantastic recipe, and I'll do more information about it as we talk about why you would build a Bundt cake. Bundt cakes are very forgiving. Number one, if you're a first-time baker. I've been making Bundts for many, many years, and it just seems that they're absolutely fail-safe. With a traditional cake, there's a lot of preparation as far as parchment bottoms and making certain of many different kinds of things, the heat of your oven, that sort of thing. But the Nordic ware Bundt pans are just so forgiving, and just about anything can be placed in these. And then when you flip it over, of course, you get this lovely definition. And if you put a glaze on it, then you get the sort of visual that we have here on this hammered cake stand. We have a couple of these. I recommend that if you love building cakes, that go ahead and invest in a couple of really lovely cake stands. It makes the world of difference. I'll put some information down in the description bar as to some ones that I think that are just clever and gorgeous. So let's go on about this particular Mrs. Grace's lemon cake find. And we found this recipe over at Once Upon a Chef, and they have named the cake Lemon Buttermilk Pound Cake. And the author of the recipe is Jennifer Siegel, Segal. You can run over to onceuponachef.com, and the printout is available to you on their website. So basically, if you are unfamiliar with building cakes, you'll see the same thing over and over again as to the necessities. We do and are huge on keeping everything fresh when it can be fresh. So in this particular case, we are not using any pre-made lemon juices or manufactured lemon juices. This is all fresh lemons. And we're also learning how to make our own powdered sugars, which it just blows my mind, because for so many years we would buy, the little bags of powdered sugars during the holiday, and obviously they're very convenient. But this season, we have learned how to make our own confectioner's sugars. So cakes are, for the most part, made of flour, and then you need to have some rising, which is always done through a baking soda, salt. In this particular recipe, it calls for unsalted butter, granulated sugar, eggs, buttermilk, lemon zest, and then the juice of fresh lemons. So you'll notice that you have to have flour, baking soda, and salt. So those are known as your primary dry ingredients, and you would always sift those. I often will double sift the flour, and then I'll re-sift once I've added the soda and the salt. You'll also see that it calls for granulated sugar. That's not part of the dry ingredients. This is part of the cream that gets folded into the dry ingredients, or it's known as the wet ingredients. It's your butter and your sugar, and then the eggs are added for fluff and lift, and the buttermilk is for taste and moistness, and then of course these lemon zest is your kicker to make it all taste like gorgeous lemon. But you know that you could actually do a lime, right? You could do this with a lime zest. You can do this maybe, you might be able to do like a dual where it would be like an orange pineapple. So you can kind of play around a little bit if you want to stretch your imagination, or you're looking at building trio cakes. And that's what these episodes will be about. Today is going to be this Mrs. Grace's cake, or what's called the lemon buttermilk pound cake. We'll do another episode that goes over the applesauce cake, and then the third cake, which is my very famous carrot cake. And yes, it's very famous. So this cake calls for syrup. Syrup also they're built with water and sugar and lemon juice for this particular one. And then you have the glaze, which is confectioner's sugar, once again, lemon juice, lemon zest, and unsalted butter. Now the syrup, the reason that the syrup, and you can even tell in the photograph here that it has this very dense, moist look. That's because the cake is actually, after it bakes, it's infused with the syrups. And so here you can be creative as well there. And then of course the glaze is a typical glaze, this one being a lemon. I'll go ahead and read the instructions because this might be helpful to someone that is just wanting to make a cake and wants to hear, you know, how do you actually get the cake started? You know, how do you do the mixing and that sort of thing? So, all right. So they're asking you to, in the bowl of an electric mixer, and of course we have a KitchenAid. There are other mixers that you can use, but they are asking for a paddle attachment, and that should tell you right away that this is not a cake that should be made with a hand beater. So an electric mixer fitted with a paddle attachment or beaters. Cream the butter and sugar on medium speed until light and fluffy, and that should take 3 to 4 minutes. Now listen to this. Medium speed until light and fluffy, and that should take you 3 to 4 minutes. You scrape down the sides of the bowl, then beat in the eggs. Another important feature of building a cake is beat in the eggs one at a time. Beating well after each addition, scrape down the sides of the bowl again. So if you understand that's the creaming of the sugar, and take your time, and then the eggs go into the bowl and beaten one at a time. In another bowl, so that's the one that's the beating happens over at the KitchenAid. In another separate bowl, you're going to combine the milk, lemon zest, and lemon juice. With the mixer on low speed, beat in 1/4 of the flour mixture, that would be your dry ingredients, then 1/3 of the buttermilk mixture. Beat in another 1/4 of the flour, then another 1/3 of the milk, and repeat with another 1/4 of the flour and the remaining milk. Finally, beat in the remaining flour mixture and scrape down the sides of the bowl. Give a quick mix to make sure all the ingredients are well incorporated. And you can imagine why. You're mixing quite a few things here. You're mixing buttermilks and eggs and flour. So you have to make certain that everything is incorporated well. So you notice that it's low speed, but you're alternating dry ingredients to the wet ingredients, dry ingredients to wet ingredients. That's another little tip that you can remember in the cake, actually. Building up, not only is it building up the flavors, but it's whatever the cake science involved is allowing the cake to actually do all the things it needs to do once it hits the oven. You're going to spoon the thick batter, and it will be a thick batter, it will not be a runny batter, into the prepared Bundt pan. If you don't know how to prepare a Bundt pan, it does take a little bit of time. It's nothing that's done in the oven, although you can season the pan in the oven, you know, very low heat, and then bring it out and let it cool down. But this is to allow the butters to melt if you're using semi-softened butter when you do butter and flour in your Bundt. A tip I can give you is that after you've buttered the Bundt, and really do take your time and do it with a piece of parchment paper. It's going to be a complete mess. It's going to look like a nightmare, but you want to make sure that you get all the grooves and indentations, and especially the funnel line. And then when you're doing your flour, you go ahead and you do a ring of flour at the bottom, and then you tap on the edges, tap, 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 all the way around, and then you lift the pan up a little bit higher, tap, 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 and all the way around. And if you don't think that you have sufficient flour, just go ahead and repeat the process, and then heavy tap to get the residue of the flour completely out of the pan so that you have butter and flour. And it'll be this really pretty, you know, little powdery look to it, and then there won't be any exposed butters. It'll be complete flour because the flour attaches to the butter. Simple. So spoon the thick batter into the prepared Bundt pan and smooth with a rubber spatula. What they're saying is that they want a nice even surface when it's going into the oven, and then you're going to bake it for an hour and 5 minutes. Now, one thing that it did not say here, except for I didn't say it, is that the prep time is 25 minutes, and you want to make sure that your oven is at, hold on just a moment.
Not on there.
Oh, isn't that interesting? So what is it, 350?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a correction that we can make to the menu. The temperature, oh, I see, it didn't print. So it's 350. This is something, though, too, that you want to check out. You know, don't make a cake for the first time thinking that, oh, that's going to be perfect, because the time of day, the weather, not time of day, the weather, your elevation, and of course the calibration of your oven can make a big difference with your cakes. So, you know, make sure the temperature for this particular cake is at 350, which is pretty standard, and they're asking for the cake to be baked for an hour, and let me go back again, an hour and 5 minutes, which I find hysterical. So 65 minutes, or until a cake tester comes out clean. If you've never done a cake testing before, it's a very good thing to have some skewers. Those would be like kebab skewers, or a very long, like I think they're called like a grapefruit knife, or something that's long and slender that can go in, and then when the knife comes out, you want to make sure that the knife is clean. That's why it says cake tester comes out clean. It means that there's no like a wet cake batter or anything really at all, except for maybe when you put the knife in, you'll get a little bit of the top of the cake, but that's really it. While you're letting the cake cool, and it is in the pan for 10 minutes on a rack, meaning you're cooling the cake in the pan now for 10 minutes on a rack, this is when you're going to start making the syrup. Now, I will tell you that I think that Quiet may have started his syrups and then rewarmed them. I can't remember. I'll have to ask him later. But they're saying that while the cake is cooling, you're going to be making the syrups. And that's where you combine your water, your sugar in a saucepan, and you bring it to a boil. Anytime that you're combining waters and sugars, though, and you're putting heat on the pan, this is also something that you really should be experimenting with and understand how quickly waters and sugars come to a boil. You will remove from the heat and then stir in the lemon juice. Another thing, that if you were to put the lemon in thinking, oh, what do I need to wait up that step? But the lemon juice, actually the essence of the lemon can become burnt. It won't taste as good. And then also the oils of the lemon, well, you won't have the fragrance. So some of the fragrance might be lost by not putting the lemon juice in after. So a lot of problems there. Don't skip that step. So it's the water, the sugar, bring it to a boil, remove it from the heat entirely, and then you stir in the lemon juice. And I also, I'm sure that Quiet would say, when it's like stir in the light, you just don't go woof like that. You want to have a nice whisk at hand and really, give it the love that it needs, and make sure that the lemon is all wonderful and make your lovely syrup. They're saying now that you invert the warm cake onto a rack If you don't have a cooking rack, you really have to have one. They're actually very useful for many, many other things. And so make sure that you have a pretty nice oven rack. There's plenty of them out there that you can choose from. Some of them have, little trivet legs. Other ones just have little, like I think they're called hairpin legs. And so make sure that you've got a couple of them around, especially during the season, because they're just extremely useful, not only for yourself, but for a friend that might want to come over and bake a second batch of something. Then you'll have two. Invert the warm cake onto a rack. Slip a large piece of parchment paper or aluminum foil under the rack. Listen to me now. So what they're saying is that once you put the cake on, you know that you're going to be putting a glaze on. So they just don't want to have everything all over the place. So this is a piece of little kitchen cleanliness kind of thing. Slip a large piece of parchment or aluminum foil under the rack to catch all the drips from the syrup and glaze. Gradually brush the hot syrup over the cake. Listen to me now. Gradually brush the hot syrup over the cake, letting it soak in. A little syrup will drip off, but try not to rush so that most of it is absorbed. Now, in a factory, they would probably pierce the cake and they would brush the syrup on, or the syrup would be coming over the cake. You can also do that. You can poke a few holes here and there. But the recipe's calling for that the syrup actually is light enough that it will just absorb into the cake. Then you allow the cake to cool completely for about an hour. So already, not only with preparation time, they're calling the total cook time is 1.5 hours plus an hour for cooling. So this is not a cake that you just want to make 20 minutes before you're headed out the door. This is definitely something that you want to try to enjoy. Take your time and spend a lovely morning making your Mrs. Grace's lemon buttermilk pound cake. When the cake is cool, then now you're going to make the glaze. This is another very standard way of making glaze. You can change up some of the ingredients, but if you've never done it before, I think the lemon glaze is so useful for many, many other recipes, cakes and cookies included. You can combine the confectioner's sugar, lemon juice, lemon zest, and melted butter in a medium bowl, mixing with a fork until smooth. So because you have the confectioner's sugar and lemon juice, you're going to automatically get some lumps. So they're saying, just go ahead and take your time. You want to make sure that it's nice and smooth. I guess talking about cakes has made someone want to go and have some. It's all right. The picture is, look at how pretty the picture is anyway. It's so beautiful. Yes, that is our cake, by the way. So aren't we clever? Where was I? Oh, the confectioner's sugar, lemon juice, lemon zest, and melted butter in a medium bowl, and mixing with a fork until smooth. You're going to add more confectioner's sugar or lemon juice as necessary. This is all about the thickness, the quality of the thickness, to make a thick but pourable glaze, and it should be the consistency of thick honey. Now that's kind of like, how are you going to know until you experience it, right? You won't know. So, don't be so hard on yourself if it's too runny, and put a little bit of more sugar in there. And that's why they're saying, go ahead and leave something off to the side so that you can kind of at least isolate what your problem is, and then you can balance it out with adding more of the dry ingredients. Spoon the glaze over the top of the cake, letting it drizzle down the sides. And that's exactly what happened here. It's gorgeous. I mean, only because we made it, it's gorgeous. But of course, if you were to go and look at photographs of these cakes, many food stylists, of course, they know all the little pitfalls of how these things look good and don't look good. But I think that we did a really great job. There's nutritional information over at the Once Upon a Chef, and that you can have once it is downloaded for your own uses. And in the description down below, I'll give you a link to their site, Once Upon a Chef, Thank you very, very much. This has been a lot of fun. This is Some Talk episode 19. And yeah, I want to make sure that I get all three cakes. We have the applesauce, and we're talking about fresh applesauce, like quiet made applesauce, fresh. And what?
It's really easy.
Oh yeah. He's saying that the applesauce, everybody should probably be knowing at least how to make their own applesauce in a pinch. So we'll bring you the applesauce cake, and the love is my carrot cake. It's pink pine cones carrot cake, pink pine cones carrot cake extraordinaire. I've been building this cake for ever since I've been and ever since I've been like, oh, I don't know, 10 or so, maybe 12. No, it's probably like 16. Yeah. Yeah, because we would have had home ec like at 13, and then I collected, like peanut butter recipes, and then I had, of course, the famous Mrs. Fields chocolate chip cookie recipe, and so it came kind of birthed out of wanting to have my own signature cake, and so that is my signature cake. It's been a real delight. Thank you very much for stopping by. This has been Some Talk episode 19. There'll be a couple of others coming very soon to you. Thank you so much. Oh, where to find me? You can find me over at Twitter at Beauty Bubble, and also please check out blab.im, blab.im, where you get to literally sit down, flip a switch, and have your own television show. It's fantastic. I love them so much, and it's just been a wonderful experience over there. Lots of interesting people, lots of really cool topics that are coming through, like they did a craft beer lightning conference, just all sorts of really cool things like that. And focusing on food, of course, during the holidays is ever so fun, and also kind of the gift giving. You can look for me over at Twitter at Beauty Bubble, of course, here on YouTube as The Beauty Bubble, and many, many other places. I'll look down in the description box below. We also have our site up and going, where we are influencing that site to reflect the conversations that are going over at Blab, Periscope, and Meerkat, where we can kind of extricate some of the topics that are going on that relate to products. So we're building out an affiliate links page that's really dedicated to the people and the things that they are interested in and that they are talking about or they're doing reviews on. This is a dry build of the site, chartchatconnect.com. You can also find us at coinchatconnect.com. It'll take you to the same page. We have two pages. One is the landing page, which has all three Twitter feeds of blab.im, meerkat.tv, and periscope.tv, and that's kind of a fun build for me. And then the gears, we have gears, and you can go to page 33, where there's some affiliate links over there too. So we're just having a really good time. It's a wonderful, wonderful experience to come on over to YouTube Live. Thank you so much, YouTube, and I'll talk to everybody really soon. Bye-bye now.